Hey, if you love our show, How to Build an Audience, please consider giving it a rating on Apple Podcasts or wherever else you listen to this podcast. We are trying to help as many entrepreneurs, business owners, and creatives as possible through this podcast, and in order to build our audience, we need your help. A rating and review on Apple Podcasts bring more exposure to our show. Don't wait. I know you will say to yourself that you will do it later, but head over to Apple Podcasts now and drop a quick review. Thank you in advance. Now, let's get to the show.
When we are vulnerable, we open up an invitation for people to connect with us. And doing so in a way that is impactful, purposeful, versus a way that is messy and gives out too much of the details, right? I try to be really, really mindful of when I post something out there that I am sharing from a place of like, "Oh, this is what happened. This is how I dealt with it. How are you dealing with it?" Right? Versus just like airing my dirty laundry out and being like, "Oh my God, poor me," right? Like, it's not about like sharing from that place, is sharing from a place that is okay, this is the lesson, this is what I learned, this is what I think you can get from it, or what is your insight on this?
Welcome to How to Build an Audience. We interview the top creatives, marketers, and communicators to help you become an expert at building an audience so you can grow your influence, increase sales, and effectively share your story. This show is brought to you by Gustavo Collective. Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of How to Build an Audience. I am your host, Matthew Guttosi. Today I am talking with Gustavo Padron. Gustavo is a yoga instructor based here in Austin, Texas. I say based in Austin, Texas because Gustavo teaches all over through retreats as well as online with his partnerships with Glow. Gustavo is one of the top yoga instructors in Austin, which is a hard place to get when Austin is a hub for health and fitness. Gustavo has collaborated with many brands like Outdoor Voices to bring yoga to the people of Austin and beyond. He has a dedicated following of people who take his class. Gustavo has built a personal brand on Instagram and his website to help build his clientele and gain massive brand deals. I first heard about Gustavo through friends who were obsessed with his yoga classes. After taking one class, you will leave feeling loved and inspired. Gustavo looks to build a community that lifts one another up online and offline. Gustavo is a great example of using his audience to build his business. In this episode, we cover Gustavo's start to yoga instruction. We talk about how he got his first class and his clients. We discuss how he's built his audience online to build his business offline. We talk about pursuing your passion and how to ask for the things you want in life. I would love to hear what you think as you're listening to the podcast, so reach out to me, Matthew Guttosi, on LinkedIn or Twitter, and we can talk there. Now, let's talk to Gustavo.
First of all, like, there's no job security here. This is like most yoga instructors were independent contractors unless you work for a big brand or like a big gym or a big company. So I have never had a corporate job in my life. In high school, I used to do um, part-time jobs that required me to do tours for this historic park. And that was kind of like the only job I had when I was growing up or as a teenager. And then when I was in college, I was a mentor and a tutor. So I worked around my schedule. So I would never had like a structured job where I had to be somewhere from like 9 to 5. And so I never had a taste for what that was like. And I think that made it really easy for me to make this decision that I needed to put med school on hold and take a year for myself. I've worked really, really hard. Like growing up, I had this big vision that I wanted to help people and be a doctor. And I thought that medicine was that route for me to help people heal. Um, I get introduced to the practice of yoga, the healing modalities that this ancient practice provides, and I am completely immersed. I'm completely immersed and captivated by how the Eastern medicine can also influence our Western mind. And so for me, making that switch was a little challenging. It was a little challenging just because I knew that being a doctor was going to provide job security for me and my family, was going to quote unquote uh, make me successful, and it was going to fulfill my dream of helping people. However, I was really stressed out and really burnt out. I was just burning the candle from both ends and didn't really feel like going to medical school was going to be the right choice for me right there and then. So I had this big epiphany one day in Shavasana. Shavasana is the last pose in a yoga class. And I had this big epiphany and this voice that came through me that said, do what you love, take care of yourself. You've worked so hard, take a break. And I saw that as a sign. I saw that as a sign. So I started to ask questions, ask teachers that I look up to, like, hey, can you really make a living off of teaching yoga? Hey, what would it look like for me if I start teaching yoga? So I am so thankful that my parents were so supportive of this idea that I had in my mind, and they knew that I was working really hard. So they were like, "Hey, yes, take a year off, defer your acceptance, take a year off, do yoga, practice yoga, teach yoga, travel. You're so young; you have your whole life ahead of you, and as long as you're doing something that fulfills you and makes you happy, we're happy." And I think that that's tricky for a lot of people because sometimes you're living someone else's dream versus your own dream. Sometimes you're living someone else's idea of what your life should look like versus what you really want your life to look like. And I think it's really important to just discover your passion, discover what lights you up, and then do that.
If you were giving advice to somebody that wants to kind of jump into a passion and really kind of make this full time and make this switch, how would you give some advice to them about that, the passion part, but also like how can you switch your mind, or how do you get started in taking your passion into something that really can become like a full-time gig?
So, something that resonated with me a few years ago is this interview from Pitbull, Mr. 305.
There you go. Three Mr. 305.
Mr. 305. Pitbull said, hopefully I say this right. Pitbull, please cut me some grace if you're watching
Yeah,
this.
if he's
Right,
listening
if
to
you
this,
happen
I'm
to watch
sorry.
this, like, please, like, forgive me because I probably am going to paraphrase this. But he said, don't be afraid to lose.
Mm.
Right? So it's kind of like the same thing as like we say here, as don't be afraid to go for it, right? Don't be afraid to lose. Like if you weren't afraid, what would you do, right? So I think it's really important to just take the leap of in faith. Just remember that when you do something that is going to serve the world and it also fills your cup, the universe or whatever source you believe in will provide. It might provide with more opportunities, with monetary experiences. It's going to provide. Everything in this world works with energy, right? So energy is a form of currency. What goes around will come around, whether it be in the same frequency or in a different frequency, right? So I think it's really important to remember that there is enough to go around. That yes, if you are being called to be another yoga instructor, awesome, we need you. If you're being called to be another author, awesome, we need you. Every single one of us has a unique story that needs to be shared with the world. Sometimes we think that, oh, there's a lot of people doing that already. How am I going to stand out? or how am I going to make a difference, right? For instance, with podcasting as well, like, you're like, oh, there's so many like podcasts out there. Like, why should I do that? Why should I go through like the hustle of that? And the question or the answer is like, because it fills my cup and because I want to share something with the world, right? And I think that that is the biggest advice that I would remind myself when I was making that decision, to remember that the universe will always provide and that there's enough to go around.
I love that. Yeah, and I think, you said, energy is a currency, and I
Mhm.
think when you are passionate about whatever you're trying to share, if it's an idea or building, a business, you're giving people that energy, right? So the more energy you have, the more currency you can give to people, and people will receive that and want to receive that. And I think that's something that's really powerful. So how did you kind of get, after you started, how'd you get those first, few like hundred of followers of people to kind of a little bit more that more consistency within your classes and then even building your schedule out? Like, how did that come about from, I just finished training to, okay, I'm now kind of full time? How long did that take you and what was that process like?
It's been like a roller coaster, to be honest with you. So as soon as I finished my first teacher training, I taught some privates to my friends, and I just loved seeing how they felt and hearing how they felt after just a few moments of movement and mindfulness. So I said to myself, okay, we got something here. We got something here. So I made it my mission to reach out to studios and showing up, like I mentioned earlier, showing up and being like, hey, I want to teach here. Hey, I want to teach here. Hey, I want to teach here. Right? If you never ask, the answer is always going to be no. So I kept asking, I kept asking. Eventually, I got a class. It was like Sunday at like 10:30 p.m. Like, what? 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday? Like, who is going to do yoga at 10:30 p.m.? Like, no, on a Sunday now. Well, that class lot was actually very, very popular for a lot of my friends in college. When you're in college, like your schedule is kind of like all over the place, and you kind of like find time to do a workout or go on a hike or study, kind of like whenever you have it, right? So when my friends knew that I was teaching at 10:30, they came to support me. They came to support me 10:30 p.m. on Sundays. That became like the jam for me, and I only had one class. So I think that as the class started to fill up, as the class started to become a little bit more, um, I don't want to say popular, but as people started to realize that like this practice was helping them cope with stress, helping them cope with uh, just overwhelming sensations from their lives, I think that they started to show up more and they will tell their friends and then they will show up. So afterwards, I had a meeting with one of the managers and he was like, okay, well, I think that, you've proven yourself.
Yeah, if
Because
you
like,
can
let's
if you
give you
can if you
another
can fill up a Sunday night 10:30 class,
140%.
something's
Like,
doing right.
you could feel that if you could fill that up, like, let's give you another class. So then I think I got another class, and that class was like it was like a more prime time slot. I think it was like Tuesday at like 5:30 p.m. I mean, I can't remember. This has been like what, like 8 years ago. Um, so I was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's like give you a good time slot. So again, I was putting myself out there, right? I was really nervous, and I still get nervous when I teach. To be honest with you, I don't think that the nerves will ever go away because I truly care about the things that I'm sharing. So there's this element of knowing that my words are going to impact people, and it is always my hope that they impact them in a positive and purposeful way. So I think that that's where the nerves come from, just like me wanting to always say something that is going to be uplifting and good. It's something that I strive and practice to live by, I hope that that resonates, and I hope that that translates with my classes and with everything that I do, just to be mindful and to be more kind. Second class on Tuesday, 5:30 p.m. Started putting myself out there in front of more people. So, like I said, I was kind of nervous. I was kind of nervous to just like put myself out there. Coming fresh out of training, I think I had by then I had been teaching for like 2 months. So I was like, these people are gonna think that I am an imposter, that I am just like, or these people are gonna think that yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. So then kind of like imposter syndrome. Like back then I didn't know that was imposter syndrome, right? I was like, people are gonna think that I'm a fake and what am I doing? But I still kept showing up because I would get messages from people saying, "Oh my God, like that class really helped me. I'm going through X, Y, and Z, and what you said really resonated with me." So that was a reminder for me to keep showing up, to keep showing up. And then eventually I started to acquire more classes, more privates. People wanted to work with me one on one. And I always said yes to everything. I said yes to everything. I was like, yes, let's do that. Yes, let's do that, because I wanted to put myself out there. So I think that it's really important that when you want to create something, you give it your all. There's a lot of power in voicing what it is that you need and what it is that you want, especially when it comes from serving other people and serving the world and sharing your passion and your gifts. I think that a lot of us, and I used to do this way before my yoga teacher trainings, a lot of us are always afraid of what could go wrong. Oh, they're going to say no. They're going to say that I'm too young to teach. I started teaching when I was 21 years old. So in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm too young to teach yoga. Like all the yoga teachers that taught me are 40 plus. They're so experienced, they're so well versed, they have so much life experience that they're gonna say, oh, 21-year-old honey, you just gotta like go live first and then come teach, right? So I just like really became clear that I wanted to teach. And then after that, took action.
After the break, Gustavo tells us how he builds a personal brand online to drive more traffic to his classes. This podcast is presented by Gatozi Collective. We are a marketing agency in Austin, Texas that teaches entrepreneurs how to create content and market their businesses. We can do the marketing for you or teach you how to do it yourself. Are you confused about where or how you need to market your business or side hustle? We have a free course that will clarify your marketing strategy in 5 days that you can sign up online at our website, gatozicollective.com. Now, let's get back to the show. Just because you have a yoga teacher certification in a few classes doesn't mean you automatically get clients into the class. Gustavo spent a lot of time building his personal brand to connect with people and get them into his classes.
I think connection. It comes down to connection at the end of the day. As human beings, I think that we all want to feel connected to someone. We all want to feel seen. We always want to feel part of something. So I share from a place that is vulnerable, a place that it's like, hey, here's Gustavo, who is an amazing yoga instructor and someone that a lot of people look up to in the community. And also, Gustavo struggles with X, Y, and Z, right? And I think it's really important that as a leader, as an influential person in the community, that you also highlight the things about you that not a lot of people know, because I feel like that is what's going to help your audience connect with you. Like my audience won't connect to me like being voted the most amazing yoga instructor by Austin Fit Magazine in 2018. My audience is not going to connect with me on that. But some of my audience might connect with me on, hey, I've struggled with loving myself. I've struggled with losing a loved one, right? I've struggled with thoughts of inadequacy. I've struggled with imposter syndrome. My audience will connect with that because it is in when we are vulnerable, we open up an invitation for people to connect with us. And doing so in a way that is impactful, purposeful versus a way that is messy and gives out too much of the details, right? I try to be really, really mindful of when I post something out there that I am sharing from a place of like, this is what happened, this is how I dealt with it, how are you dealing with it, right? Versus just like airing my dirty laundry out and being like, oh my God, poor me, right? Like, it's not about like sharing from that place, is sharing from a place that is okay, this is the lesson, this is what I learned, this is what I think you can get from it, or what is your insight on this?
Have an impact and there's purpose behind it. But I think what's really important, especially if anybody's trying to build an audience or build a brand, it's authenticity. People connect. We're humans. People
Hmm.
forget that social media needs to be social. Like people
Exactly.
want to, you need to like comment and interact with people. You need to actually have that human connection. Although it's online, does not mean that it's not another human being that has real hurt and loss and grievance and happiness and joy on the other side of the screen. And I think we lose that very easily, but in sharing that, that's totally has helped connect with so many people, and I think it's brought a major impact to how you've grown your business because people connect with your genuine spirit online, so they want to take a class with you because they want to find the same healing that you have found, healing in. And I think that's really amazing. You've worked with so many big brands and you've worked with like a lot of companies and you've done corporate wellness.
Yeah.
And recently you just did a collaboration with a company called Goop. Am I saying that correctly?
Hmm.
Goop?
Yeah. Goop.
How Yeah, okay. So that's an amazing opportunity that you're doing right now. And how have these opportunities with other companies and just collaborations in general helped you grow your brand and your business?
I think that by collaborating with other brands, I'm able to share my message on a bigger platform. And at the end of the day, that is what it comes down to. How can I reach more people so that they can also remember that they deserve to feel good in their lives, both in body and in mind? So I say yes to brands that I align with, brands that I think will help me carry this message forward. Because at the end of the day, I just want to, at the end of the day, my intention is for my message to reach one person. If it can reach 1,000 people, awesome. 10,000, awesome. A million, awesome. But if I can just touch one person's life every single day, I think that my work here has been done for that day. Right. So it's always about remembering, coming back to the root, like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Is it to like seem more popular? I mean, maybe that's like what the ego says. But at the end of the day, like getting more clear, why do I want to do this? Because I want to make sure that someone else sees this and feels taken care of, feels loved.
I think what I've heard in this whole interview is that you've always kept your passion there. Like you've always kept like you've been very rooted in wanting to help one person and making that clear. And obviously, although your audience has really grown, you've kept to that genesis, that point of why you started in the first place. How do you feel like as your audience has grown, the
Mhm.
personal connections with people has been opened up a lot more opportunities for you than just kind of like online, I've got a big following? How did the personal connections for you kind of help you grow and continue to kind of stay connected with your passion and your drive and why you're doing what you're doing?
So I think there's two answers to this question. So right now, since we are still in lockdown, because of COVID-19, it's been a little challenging to make those connections IRL in real life, right? The only person I see is my partner every single day. So it's been really hard to make those connections IRL. So I have completely shifted to an online platform, or I have completely shifted to an online setting now, where I'm like, engaging with my students from classes. I'll like send them like a little message, or I'm always I always try my best, and by try I mean 98% of the time, to answer every single DM that comes through on my Instagram. Uh, Whether it be like a recommendation, or whether it be like just a sweet note, or whether it be anything, I always try to answer. I think that, someone took time out of their day to write something to you. I think that it's important to acknowledge that, to celebrate that, and also to connect with that, right? Because that is your audience. That is people that look up to you. That is people that you can collaborate with. That is people that are going to elevate your career, elevate you, and in return, you're going to help them in some way, shape, or form. So I think it's just super important to remain connected, right? I mean, I have turned off my notifications on my phone when it comes from like social media and stuff. So I realized that I've been spending a lot of time on my electronics, especially on my phone. So I have dedicated just like 30 minutes at the beginning of the day. So after I do like my meditation, my journaling, and move my body, I do like 30 minutes of just checking social and answering DMs. And then I do that again midday. And then I do that again at the end of the day, right before I go to bed. And then I put my phone away. Again, a little meditation, a little journaling, and then put the phone away, right? So I think it's important for me, at least that's how it works, to do like 30 minutes in 3 times a day. I know it's 90 minutes a day, it's a lot. But I think that you're investing in something, right? If I was just to like post a picture and like let it be by itself and like never answer DMs, people are gonna stop interacting with me because I don't answer, right? So I think it's really important, like you said, social media, it's meant for it to be social, to be interactive, right? So I think that if you want to grow your community, you have to respond, you have to engage, you have to show up, kind of like I showed up for my classes. When I kind of like I showed up for the studio that I wanted to teach for, like really, really persistent. The same applies here. You're putting energy into something that you want to grow, right? If you let it go by itself, if you let it be by itself, nothing is going to happen. You have to put energy and intention behind it.
As we end the podcast, we will finish with a segment called Open Mic. We are going to end each episode by giving the guest a space to share about anything that is on their mind, more advice, or anything else that could be off brand.
I am really humbled and honored to be sitting where I'm sitting right now. I feel like I've put in the work, and I think it's really important to remember to always stay grateful. My dad would always, and I've shared this story a lot of times. My dad, when he would tuck us into bed, he would say, "What are you grateful for today?" And he'll be like, "What if tomorrow you only woke up with the things that you gave thanks for today?" Right? So that has stuck with me for so long. And this practice of gratitude is something that I aim to live by. When you're grateful for something, you increase its value. And like I mentioned earlier, energy is a form of currency, right? So you elevate your energy, and in return, you're able to give people energy from this place that is full, from this place that is rich, from this place that is intentional, and of course, grateful. So, my biggest advice or recommendation would be to practice gratitude, to just right where you are, just to think of one thing that you are grateful for. I understand that gratitude might not solve all your problems, but also it can help you to remember there's something working in your life, whether it be that you have a roof over your head, whether it be that you have running water, whether it be that you're healthy, right? There's something that you can always be grateful for. That's what I would leave you with. That's what my little rec, my little gift for you to practice gratitude.
This conversation with Gustavo inspired me to keep working for my goals and show up even if no one is watching or it is 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday. Always do my best and make the best out of the opportunities that I have right now. You can follow Gustavo on Instagram at Gustavo A. Padron and take his yoga class online or in person. You can find his classes on his website, GustavoPadron.com. All of the links to find Gustavo will be in the show notes. Thank you, Gustavo, for being on the show. If you like this show, tweet me at Matthew Guttosi. And if you really love this show, drop a rating on Apple Podcasts or your podcast listening app. And I will talk to you next week. This podcast is presented by Guttosi Collective. We are a marketing agency in Austin, Texas that teaches entrepreneurs how to create content and market their businesses. We can do the marketing for you or teach you how to do it yourself. Are you in need of a logo? We have a team of creatives to help you with all your marketing and design needs. You can reach out to us by emailing us at hello@guttosicollective.com or visit us online at our website, guttosicollective.com. We hope that you enjoyed the show and we'll see you in the next episode.